Hello and welcome to the Burning Youth Oak Band Podcast, Episode 10, Gender Inequality.
Alright, if the house is a rockin', don't come a knockin'.
Riley Sklr, political advisor, everyone.
I don't think my salary reflects that.
Should I ask what your salary is?
From the BYOB band for the financial year of 2015, I just got my tax statement. It's $0.
$0. All right, to my left, Amber-Geisha.
Hey, what's up? I identify as a woman, cisgender woman, matches my sex.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
What does cisgender mean?
It's like the basic understanding of the binary of male and female, woman and man.
So the prefix cis means...
I don't know what that means, actually.
Oh, okay. Well,
for
our listeners out there, go ahead and look that up and send it into listener mail. We'd like to hear from you on your interpretation of the definition of the prefix cis.
Cis. Is that spelt?
All right. It's denoting or relating to a person whose sense of personality, identity, and gender corresponds with their birth sex.
All right. That was quick listener mail. Thank you.
Got it.
All right. And I am Andrew Riefenstahl. I identify as a male. At least I think so.
We'll have to explore that a bit deeper today, and maybe by the end of this podcast, he won't identify as a male anymore.
I'm not sure what I am, honestly, and I really need you guys' help to figure that out here today. And that's why I brought you two here.
Hopefully by the end of the song.
This isn't an intervention, by the way. This is this is a podcast.
Okay. I'm going to start out by reading a definition here. I think this is a good one here. Mm-hmm. So a gender is, this isn't a very good definition, actually. But, all right, no, but gender versus sex, that's what I want to talk about. So gender, right, is the state of being male or female with reference to social and cultural differences. And then sex is, short answer, the biological definition of the difference between the two groups. A better question to get you started then, is the distinction useful?
Absolutely. I think it's incredibly useful, especially considering the, massive spectrum of LGBTQ and what that can mean for people, and identity and personal identity is a massive thing and should be, I think, respected. And so, yeah, absolutely. People who are born, trans people that are born a certain sex and identify as a gender that doesn't match their sex should totally be.
What about in regards to government policy? Now, should the government kind of be, is it distinctful or is it useful, for those things to be separated and then us discussing them?
I think academically speaking, the two different words serve a purpose. Like gender, you can describe in a sociology class or in the anthropological class, whereas sex is clearly anatomy and physiology and biology. So, they serve a distinct purpose.
And how do they serve gender inequality?
Because I guess, people that are trying to oppress particular genders would have to use those terms to identify them. I don't know what else.
That's really interesting, actually, because whenever you're talking about politics and the importance of distinguishing between the two, I think it's pretty, I don't know, I won't make assumptions, but, white men have the most privilege in this country and in most of the world. And
why do you think that is, though?
That's an incredibly complicated answer to that question. But this thought real quick, white men have the most privilege in this world, or in this country at least, let's just stick here. And whenever there's a trans woman who was a white man, they're still bestowed a lot of the same privileges because they could be perceived to the world as a white man still, either by people's, ignorance or denial, but they are a marginalized group in that they're trans. So, I think That's a great question. I honestly haven't even thought about that much. Like, how does that play into like bathroom bills?
And so when I'm hearing you talk, I'm seeing a spectrum now forming. I'm not saying binary, yes or no. There's a huge spectrum. It's like maybe your biological sex is male, and then you happen to be genetically white, so you're at a more privileged spectrum of that gender inequality, and then versus, you know, possibly an African-American transgender male, right? He's going to have a lot heavier social inequality. Thank you. You know, so that's just what, you know, as you're talking about it, you're discussing how gender and sex, it's not just binary zeros and one. It's going to be like a whole spectrum here. And
absolutely. And how does that play into, you know, like bathroom bills, like basically discriminating against trans people because they're using their sex? I mean, it's funny because like I argue, I feel like I'm catching myself in a contradiction, and like help me if I'm not, if that's not actually the case. But I feel like people, you know, should have the power to identify with however they identify, and that they should, you know, a trans woman should be perceived as a woman and treated, you know, as a woman. They should be used female pronouns for her. However, so like I think that sex and gender should be perceived as different things. However, in the case of a trans woman, like she doesn't want to be perceived as different things. I mean, who knows? Some people probably like, you know, having their born genitalia, maybe, but like, you know, it's like their genitalia is determining which bathroom they can go into. So like, it's actually a bad thing in the case of a bathroom bill for those two to be separate, because it creates discrimination against trans people.
Yeah, let's back that up a little bit and kind of ask ourselves, is there existing legislation that says you have to go in a particular bathroom?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, North Carolina has a transgender bathroom.
No, I'm talking like, you know, before the whole transgender issue came up, is there a law in any state that says a male has to go in this bathroom and a woman has to go in this bathroom? Because what the transgender bill, in my opinion, is trying to do is specifically target transgender people and then dictate which bathroom they use. When previously there was no legislation on the books, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, that tells a male he has to go into a male's bathroom. Right. So, for example, as a white, straight male, I can go into a woman's bathroom, and am I, like, subject to be arrested?
Right.
Like,
are you trespassing? Yeah.
Am I breaking a law?
Bringing a social law?
Yeah, obvious, social. Like, there are laws that protect people physically from assault or sexual assault or whatever may occur for the reasons that they're making transgender people go in particular bathrooms. So what is the purpose other than to discriminate in order to put a law in place that says you have to go to a particular bathroom? Whereas if you go into the bathroom that doesn't correspond with your birth gender and you assault somebody, like, you don't have to be charged for entering the wrong fucking bathroom. You just get charged for assault.
Yeah.
So I think it's not only a waste of time and money to even bring this bill up, but it's also clearly discriminatory in nature and serves no actual purpose in protecting anybody's safety.
Truth. The idea that, like, gender doesn't actually exist because it's completely a social construct and we're all just human beings performing our gender. So I am biologically a woman, but because I also identify as a woman, I'm, you know, if you look at me, I look like a woman. I do a lot of things to perform the act of being a woman. I have long hair, I wear makeup, I wear a lot of jewelry, I wear high heels, like tank tops, you know.
Looks good, might I add.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. But it's all a performance, right? You know, it's all a costume that I'm wearing to fit the social norm of what a woman is supposed to look like. What do y'all think about that?
Well, I dressed in drag one time, and I felt very liberated, so that was cool. So yeah, I don't think I would do it every day just because it's uncomfortable what they have to wear. Yeah, it feels good.
It's uncomfortable for you.
Did you wear the undergarments too?
I think it was just like a all one piece kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
For our podcast listeners, you won't see me, but for our internet streaming and TV audience, you can see that I have long hair, and although I do have a beard, I think that kind of gives it away. But when I was on a flight about 2 weeks ago, I was looking down and reading something, and a flight attendant walked up from behind me and said, "Excuse me, ma'am," and looked me straight in the eye. And then as soon as she realized I was a male, she kind of like hesitated and said, "Sir." But that happens to me all the time. So I guess I'm not a very good performer.
Oh,
Well, I
man.
mean, it's interesting because you're breaking a social norm. Both y'all are by having long hair, right? Like you're breaking a traditional male performance of having short hair, and like this is all like 20th century on. This isn't like historically, because man, people were queer as fuck back in the day, and it was totally cool.
I know. Why are we?
Well, it was only cool if you were nobility. Otherwise, you get probably killed.
Well, I mean, like, I should clarify what queer as fuck means. Men wore heels and had long hair, and that was like
Fashion.
norm.
So you're saying like
It's
the colonial British era of styling, like the red coats,
Yeah.
for example, they wear wigs and makeup and high-heeled shoes. So that would be considered feminine in today's day.
That'd be like full on drag in today's day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Like the most
But they were like the
revered
most.
people.
They were the most manly, military figures at the time. They were the imperialists.
Yeah. It's pretty bizarre how, fashion and style kind of affects all of this too. Trends affect this larger conversation of, the gender spectrum. Because what was trendy, a few hundred years ago can get you killed now.
Yeah, so all those hipsters out there wanted to dress up like it's 1900. Watch your back.
We know where you are. We will find you.
And we'll come party with you.
I have long hair, and I do it because white hair or short hair. Sorry, was that a Freudian slip? Is boring and stupid. And if you only live once, you got to grow your hair out and you got to look at it, right? You can't just like hide.
Would you look at it?
Yeah, look at it. Jeez. So I identify with being a rock star. So what?
Oh, so, I mean, I think hair is a really interesting conversation in and of its own, like people's self-body care, whatever, but like, I've recently have been having a contested relationship with my body hair. And like what that means for me as like a woman who.
What does that
otherwise-
mean?
Yeah, what the hell does that mean, right? Like I have a weird relationship with my body hair. Like I've got long hair, very feminine hair, but I have armpit hair. And like I don't like sometimes I shave my body hair, sometimes I leave it, and it all depends on like really kind of like who I'm going to be around and like what kind of, social expectations are put on me as a woman in that situation. For example, my mother is appalled by my armpit hair. But in Austin, flies no problem. And that is just based on, coming from a pretty traditional conservative smallish town of, people who see a gender binary, not a spectrum.
Yeah, I would argue with that fundamentally because as a natural human being, like, you have armpit hair regardless. So if you date it back to, like, pre-society and pre-gender norms, a female is going to have armpit hair. So next time anyone comments that, just throw that in their face.
Give them the old paleo Indian answer and tell them to back off.
Stick it to the man and buy male razors because they're cheaper.
Yeah.
Really? Is that a...
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah. That's like a real big problem. Female products are for literally the exact same ingredients.
So is that going to be a problem
Smells.
we should legislate against, is women buying our products? Because that will just drive the cost up for us, right?
And those companies that focus strictly on women's products, their profits are going to go down once they find this information out, Amber.
The
It's
feminists
all the
are
same
out there.
people that own it. It's all the same people that own like Dove own like Old Spice. Maybe not exactly, but you know what I mean. It's all the same white men at the top putting money in their pockets based on branding.
It's all the same 6 companies that own everything.
There you go. List them off.
Oh, I can't do that.
Johnson & Johnson.
I was about to be really impressed. That's totally fine.
Fender, Epiphone, PV. I'm just kidding.
So what are, other than y'all's hair, I don't know, do you guys have any, do you ever feel, actually, different question. Do you guys ever feel challenged by the, or maybe uncomfortable in a society that has such rigid masculine norms? And do you ever feel, bound by that? Or, do you have a weird relationship with that? Or are you pretty comfy being and identifying as men?
I like being both. I know that might surprise some of my listeners. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm male. I'm a hard-edged male, intellect, thinker, problem solver. And maybe I'm getting into gender roles here. I don't know. But then I openly, I'm a rocker and I like to make music. I like to feel things and interpret things. And I always kind of have associated that. Man, I didn't realize how much of a gender role Pandora's box I was.
Absolutely.
And so I'm sitting here I'm sensitive. I'm listening to others a lot, and I'm trying to figure out what the undercurrents of everything is. And so yeah, it's kind of a little bit of both. I know I'm male for sure, sex-wise, and I'm proud of it. Love it. I love women. They're beautiful pieces of art, and my brain sends signals. I have no choice. It happens. But then I'm also I feel sometimes there's androgyny.
But you being a male doesn't make you automatically attracted to females.
Exactly. That's sexuality, which we can totally talk about.
Yeah, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'll close this box. I'm packing it up real quick here.
So I think it's very accurate to look at it as a spectrum, because if you were to, 3D print somebody in the entire stereotypical form of a male or a female, they would be one of those, over inbred dogs that just dies of disease because they won't even work. Person, the most naturally suitable person to navigate the society is someone that has a blend of both gender roles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
you have to have sensitivity, and you have to kind of be strong and powerful, and sometimes, but you also have to be smart and charismatic. So
do you guys think that character traits, well, okay, so these are perceived. This is funny. We're in a societal norm trap right now in the way that we're talking about the genders based on their character traits. I think that's bullshit, personally. I think that's no shit. We're talking about our thoughts and feelings. So I think I think it's bullshit to say that, masculine, that men are, it's kind of straight offensive to say men are smarter and more rational, and women are more feeling, and that is the same bullshit that I was taught as a kid growing up, and I've just chosen to fight it, and it's a struggle because I am perceived as a feeling, touching, maternal type of person, when in fact I don't fucking want kids. I have emotions, but I'm not the kindest person always. What do you guys think about that?
No children for me, please. Not enough resources right now.
Right, and you're you're expected. It's okay for you to feel that way.
Yeah.
Because you're a man, and that's all based on stereotypes within genders. So I think it's I guess what I'm getting at is I think it's dangerous to, or maybe not. It's dangerous and can be pretty shitty to say that, I have more masculine traits and feminine traits, and then list off these stereotypes of what those are.
So did somebody actively explain that to you at some point, or did you just, obviously you had to continually observe these behaviors from the time of your rearing, but did anyone at any point have an active conversation with you about?
Nobody ever said you, Amber, you're a girl, so this is how society's going to treat you, and this is how you're expected to act. But it came absolutely heavily influenced from my parents throughout the year. My parents reinforced my gender regularly. I think a perfect anecdote is this happened 10 years ago maybe, but instances but that was really whenever I started thinking about all this. So it struck me differently then, but this had happened. This is an example of things that my mom would tell me throughout my childhood. As my mom, my Mima, and I were in my mom's bathroom, getting ready, doing our hair, putting on makeup, and we had no plans for the day. So I was like, what are we doing? Like, aren't we just going to hang out around the house all day? Like, why do we need to get ready? And my mom was like, well, Amber, that's what girls do. And I was just like, what? Like, why? And that I think that along with like
You had a moment.
I had a moment. I had like a little light bulb come on and I was like, I don't want that though. I don't need that though. Like, that's not what girls do. Girls do so much. And it doesn't, like, putting on their makeup is an awesome routine. I love it personally. Like, but I don't have to.
Yeah, to generalize and say that this is something I must do solely for the purpose that because I'm a woman, it really doesn't hold any water because you could be doing a million other things instead of just sitting there for no reason with no makeup. You'd have to justify it a little bit further, I think.
Totally. I mean, I don't think it's a shameful thing to do. Like, I'm wearing makeup right now and it's like fun for me to do. It's fun for me to do my hair, and those are things that I just happen to, those are female gender roles that I happen to play and perform and actually do. But it's because I think a lot of it is because, I like the aesthetic of it, but it's because I was raised that way. Kids, oh God, I have so many feelings on this, but like, I think it's a big problem too, though. I'm going to wrap there, and I want to get y'all's thoughts before I dive into another whole. Sorry to like dominate real quick.
No, it's fine.
Dominating. The female stereotype.
So this gets to my quick step here to the Black Widow culture. This will only be we have 60 seconds here on the clock. Let's talk about the Black Widow. The Black Widow, sexual cannibalism. She mates with her partner and then kills the partner after coitus. Thoughts, go. Riley. Good or bad for society?
Nature is metal.
Oh, damn. Amber?
Agreed. I don't really know what this has to do with sex or gender other than, like, a woman and a man having sex.
The Black Widow culture is just the idea that all of a sudden our patriarchal society will collapse and the rise of the full-on, femme dominatrix.
Like the future is female?
Anyway, that wraps up our 60-second sidestep here. The
future is female.
Oh, well, you were saying about the makeup, and I was lost in my head about makeup.
Yeah. Well, just the idea, I'm sure that, I think, do you guys, I don't know. I think those types of, like, I would even call them, like, microaggressions as you're growing up, like, are dangerous because it creates this, environment of a binary where there's not a whole lot that can exist outside of that, and it's, leads to larger discrimination and inequality and, negation, and it's scary. Like, like gender reveal parties. First of all, it's fucking inaccurate. It's a sex reveal party. Like, that baby, you're already putting a gender expectation on the kid based on their, like, genitalia
before it's born,
yeah. And like, even before it's out the womb, like, a little girl's room is painted pink and she's expected to play with dolls and, like, have a kitchenette, and, like, I still don't have my little, like, Tonka Jeep that I wanted to drive,
so
because I got a Barbie car.
I wonder what percentage of babies born actually are identify with the particular gender. So basically, how many trans people, are there on a percentage basis? So, like, what is the percentage that the gender reveal is factually incorrect?
Yeah, sex reveal.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's probably a lot more than is actually statistically recorded, because there's still an air of exclusion and discrimination against people who identify as trans. And there's a lot of fear. So, maybe it's like, 10%. I have no idea. But it's probably, or like 5%. It's probably more like 10%. Because, people live in fear in a body that they don't identify with for their whole lives.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to get a little turned around by this conversation because, we're obvious, as much as we want to think about it and, like, be progressive, have progressive mindsets, like, we're still very much you know, and I don't want to lump us all in, but just the way that we're having this conversation, like, you know, we're all very much influenced in subtle ways by the gender binary. And it's, you know, it's, you can see it affecting us in the way that, you know, we kind of like question things. We're like, well, is that the way that we should talk about this? Is that actually what I feel? You know, because it's such, you know, we have these like urges that have been taught to us and that we've been acting out our whole life. But then whenever you throw, you know, the possibility of there being more than just the binary, then it's like super fun to think about and play with.
I like that idea as well, the spectrum, and just not these stupid ass gender roles.
Stupid ass gender roles is right.
In a world without gender roles,
Yes!
only one man and woman will survive.
Sadie Hawkins dance in my khaki pants. Thanks everyone for listening today. Please go to our website at www.byoband.org and leave us a comment in the comment section. Take care.